Some dare call it conspiracy.
Welcome to Some Dare Call It Conspiracy with Brent Lee and Neil Sanders.
As the planet spirals into a fascist dystopia, we thought someone really should keep a record of this decline, so that when the aliens are sifting through the ashes of civilization, they might be able to see where it all went wrong.
This is The World According to Some.
Or as all the hepcats are calling it, twats. So where had we left off? The last time we were speaking, I think we got up to January the 27th. So we're now on January the 28th. And, the world is... There's lots of things going off, isn't there?
Well,
obviously.
What happened yesterday?
What did happen yesterday? What was the last thing that happened? Let me just double check, because I can't remember. Like, there's that much bloody crap going on. That was it. We discovered that Elon Musk had been named after a book by Werner Von Braun.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That was it. That depicted the character Elon having a colony on Mars. But people like Alex Jones and stuff had decided this was absolute proof that Werner Von Braun was a psychic and a remote viewer, a very powerful remote viewer that could see into the future. Which indicates that Elon will be the ruler of Mars, according to Alex Jones, which is something we'd not really thought about, actually.
But hey, we might have to investigate it as deep dives that we might be going into this year.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, actually. So, yeah. But so, the world is in turmoil, and as we know, Elon Musk has started making noise about the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. And so because of this and because of the new Trump administration, they're really, really keen to save money. And we've got a new press secretary, a lady called Karen Leavitt. She's a 27-year-old, and she looks exactly like you'd expect her to look. She's one of these ice-maiden conservative women. She's very, very brash. She takes no shit from anybody. She seems impervious to criticism, logic, reason. She's like a sort of... she's like the fembots in Austin Powers. That's about right. And anyway, so she's making noise, basically. She announced on the 28th that they'd uncovered something terrible, that the Biden administration had sent $50 million worth of condoms to the Gaza Strip, which she called a preposterous waste of taxpayer money. She says there was about to be a $50 million taxpayer bill that went out the door to fund condoms in Gaza, which is shocking, absolutely shocking. Now, in all fairness, she didn't actually offer any evidence to support this claim, and she wasn't really pressed by reporters because reporters were a bit shocked that she was complaining about this apparent United States government plan to spend $50 million to send condoms to Palestine. Elon Musk got on board with this and decided that they needed to tell everyone about this massive amount of waste. And Fox News even got on board, and they actually came up with an explanation for this. And you would like this, Brent, because this is evidently the most plausible explanation.
I'm waiting for context, but I'm guessing this isn't it.
Well, the Fox News tried to provide context. To explain this enormous amount of money spent on prophylactics, that essentially they were being sent to Hamas, and Hamas militants were using them as balloons to float explosives into Israel.
I thought they were going to say, it's a depopulation plan.
Maybe. I mean, that would make more sense, wouldn't it? But and here's the thing, right? When I first read that, I thought he meant floating them down the river or something like that. But actually reading that back, he means floating them in the air. Hasn't Israel got an iron dome, right? The irony of the impenetrable being penetrated by something that's supposed to prevent you getting pregnant during penetration. Oh, wow. God, the Lord works in mysterious ways sometimes. Anyway, a review of the available evidence suggests that this claim is absolutely not true. It just really didn't happen, basically. Like, according to comprehensive report, and this was reported in the Daily Mail, issued in September by the US Agency for International Development, not a penny of the $60.8 million in contraceptive and condom shipments funded by the US in the past year went to Gaza. In fact, the accounting shows that there were no condoms sent to any part of the Middle East, and just one small shipment of $45,680 in oral and injectable contraceptives was sent to the region. All of it was distributed to the government of Jordan. So for the financial year 2023, the most recent year for which data is available, only about $7 million worth of condoms were distributed globally by USAID, and the mass majority of family planning funds, 89% of which was spent on programs in Africa. So the reason that they're sending all these things out is basically to, prevent AIDS and overpopulation, which leads to other diseases and such in places that are less developed and in areas where charity can help out. It also basically, as Dan Even of the non-profit News Literacy Project pointed out, it's also worth noting that this is not a Biden program. Trump too spent funds on sending contraceptives around the globe. In 2019, about $40 million was spent on contraceptives by the Trump administration. The problem with this is that basically they're purposefully muddying the waters. They're being really outrageous by saying, "Oh, it's condoms being spent this money on," and some people have suggested that they're mashing that together with all types of contraception or sex health. Because they provide sort of pregnancy help and. But not just that as well. There's a lot of charitable organisations that will be sort of educational. This is the point. It's just going to highlight two things. One, absolute bullshit nitpicking by the Republicans to give the impression that there's fraud and misspending of funds. And two, a lot of these things will be absolute lies, complete and total lies, basically. We'll come on to it, basically. But at this point, it basically looked like it was just a complete lie, that she just made this up out of whole cloth. Later, Al Jazeera points out that she might have meant Gaza in Mozambique, because there was an initiative where about $89 million worth of aid was sent to two places in Mozambique, one of which was called Gaza. But this was more to do with HIV medicine and HIV prevention and such like that. It wasn't condoms, and the money amount is completely wrong. So, and I think that's Al Jazeera basically going, well, maybe we weren't just lied to completely by the Secretary of Press for the United States of America, because that would mean that we're in a sort of weird dictatorship. Maybe she just got it wrong and she made a good faith mistake. I don't believe that for a second. I think she just fucking made it up, to be quite honest. And then people on Fox News postulating that this is how Gaza's bomb Israel. This is how Hamas, bombs Israel with the use of these airborne condom-directed explosive devices. I mean, for crying out loud! There's even now you couldn't do that. Actually, it would eat through the plastic. I was just saying you could fill them with petrol and turn them into a sort of rudimentary petrol bomb, but you couldn't do that because it eats through the plastic. So, no, it's just made up. It's just made up, isn't it? But this is the thing, this Levitt woman, she doesn't appear to be the most honest person. In 2022, she was running for the US House of Representatives in New Hampshire's 1st District. But she faced a Federal Election Commission complaint from End Citizens United, alleging that Levitt's campaign and treasurer illegally accepted campaign donations over the legal limit and never actually repaid her donors. Well, in January 2025, this is, just before she's got this new job as press secretary, Levitt disclosed in 17 amended campaign filings $326,370 in unpaid campaign debts, which she'd failed to disclose for several years. roughly $200,000 of the debt was composed of illicit campaign donations made in excess of campaign finance limits that she never paid back, in complete violation of campaign finance laws. She appears to have just completely got away with that. So she's taken all this money, essentially, like from donors, it would appear, and allegedly pocketed it. And now she's got a job lying to the population for the God King Trump, which is, nice work if you can get it. But also that day, basically, Jim Acosta, who was a journalist and current host on CNN, decided to quit live on air. Now, I don't know if people can remember, he was the journalist who in 2018, he was banned from the White House for asking hard questions and asking follow-up questions, and Trump got into a bit of a back and forth with him, called him rude, and then retaliated by banning him from the press area for a time. But also, I don't know if people remember, there was that video that was put around of him seemingly grabbing a junior staffer's arm and forcing the microphone out of the way, and that was spread around to smear him. Well, the White House had got that video from the website InfoWars, where Paul Joseph Watson had posted this particular video, which had been edited to portray this light contact as approaching a physical blow. There was a social media intelligence agency called Storyful, and they basically examined it, and they said that the 2-second long snippet of the video is repeated within the 15 seconds long overall clip, and 3 frames are paused a fraction of a second, resulting in a slight time compression elsewhere than this highlighted footage showing brief contact with the intern's arm. And so basically what's happened is somebody's slowed it down and buggered with a couple of frames to make it look like he's pushing this woman out of the way and being quite violent, and that just wasn't the case. But here's the strange thing: this was shown on the news, and rather than show any of the various news sources of this footage, the White House decided to show the video that was taken from the InfoWars website. Now, Paul Joseph Watson, who's the person that wrote the article and posted it, claimed that he didn't alter the clip. He obtained the video from the Daily Wire, which is Ben Shapiro's website, and that he republished it as a compressed MP4 file, which may have accidentally
Oh, come on.
Yeah. It's all bollocks.
Come on.
They know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. But what's really shameful about that is the fact that the White House used that the InfoWars as a source. So, anyway, one thing that some people might have noticed is that CNN appears to be somewhat pandering to Donald Trump. Some people might say this is like, a smart business decision. But certainly Jim Acosta didn't think that they're calling out his lies and his corruption, at least not to the degree that he feels is adequate. And so he said on air, "I just wanted to end today's show by thanking all of the wonderful people who work behind the scenes at this network. You may have seen some reports about me in the show, and after giving all of this some careful consideration and weighing an alternative time slot that CNN offered me, I've decided to move on. I'm grateful to CNN for nearly 18 years I've spent here doing the news." After saying that the highlight of his career at CNN was covering Barack Obama's 2016 trip to Cuba, he ended his final broadcast with this message. "As the son of a Cuban refugee, I took home the lesson it's never a good time to bow down to a tyrant. I've always believed it's the job of the press to hold power to account. I've always tried to do that at CNN and plan to go on doing it in the future. One final message. Don't give in to the lies. Don't give in to the fear. Hold on to the truth and to hope. Even if you have to get out your phone, record that message. I will not give in to the lies. I will not give in to the fear posted on your social media so people can hear from you too. I'll have more to say about my plans in the coming days, but until then, I want to thank all of you for tuning in. It has been an honor to be welcomed into your home all of these years."
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, it's no Howard Beale but that's at least a degree of integrity. Now, we may later find out that it's nothing to do with integrity and he demanded a massive pay rise or something like that. But
let's just take it what it is on the surface, shall we?
It would appear that it's basically that it's about his concerns about Trump and mass deportations, which he has spoken about and started to enact. Last episode, we talked about how he's even tried to turn it into a sort of television spectacle by having Dr. Phil go out onto the streets and interview people as they're being arrested by ICE to be deported, which some people would say was distasteful, but there you go. But that would appear that so if we look at it on face value, that would totally appear that Jim Acosta is somebody that has a degree of integrity. Two people that have absolutely no integrity to any degree are Donald Trump and Lord Peter Mandelson. Some people,
of course,
absolutely. Well, Donald Trump has
the Prince of Darkness himself.
The Prince of Darkness himself, exactly.
Mate, I used to think that was so like symbolic.
Absolutely, like, well, he's malevolent, isn't he? Like, that's the strange thing.
Yeah, but I thought they're telling us, man. They're telling us.
Yeah, no, I get it. And but you can believe it. If somebody said to me today, you know what, I reckon that Peter Mandelson might be doing satanic sacrifices, I'd go, I wouldn't rule it out. I would not rule it out. Like, it would be foolish. We don't have all the facts. Peter, now the real reason that he was called the Prince of Darkness was because he's actually a high ceremonial magician. No, it's because he was the first spin doctor that was sort of well known to the public. He was behind Tony Blair, and he was always known as it was one of those things where this was potentially a sort of warning sign that we should have seen about Tony Blair, that maybe just because Oasis have been over to his house, maybe he's not actually the good guy that we think he might be. Mandelson was one of those incredibly ruthless spin doctor. There was him and Alistair Campbell, wasn't there, basically? But Mandelson was always seen as the sort of more in the background, the sort of the mysterious dark arts, essentially. But Donald Trump has approved Lord Peter Mandelson's appointment as a new UK ambassador to Washington. But here's the thing. Mandelson had previously branded the US president as a danger to the world. And this is in 2019. He also at one point said that Donald Trump was little short of a white nationalist. And recently, actually, some just prior to Trump's announcement, aides to Donald Trump. That's not like an incantation. Aides to Donald Trump. Although, if it works, then hurrah. Anyway, people that work for Donald Trump have recently called Peter Mandelson a moron. So it might not be the best of relationships.
I would just say on like that kind of level, maybe he's better to work with than Farage.
Oh Christ, I would have thought so. Yeah, but that's like, losing your left arm over your right arm. Like, it's very, very slightly better. Like, but you wouldn't wish it upon anybody. But here's the thing: like, at least Trump and Mandelson will have some stuff to talk about, because they both were spotted with or have shady connections with Jeffrey Epstein.
They have a mutual.
Yeah, they have a mutual. They have a mutual buddy, like, basically. So, basically, in 2019, the UK's Channel 4 aired an episode of the documentary series Dispatches, in which a source close to sex offender Jeffrey Epstein claimed that Peter Mandelson, who was at the time serving as a UK cabinet minister, had made a phone call to Epstein in order to set up a meeting with Jamie Dimon, who was the CEO of JP Morgan. And in June 2023, an internal JP Morgan report from 2019 looking into this, filed to a New York court, found that Jeffrey Epstein appears to maintain a particularly close relationship with Prince Andrew, Duke of York, and Lord Peter Mandelson. a senior a member of the British government. Now, what happened was on December 27th, 2005, Mandelson was pictured going on a shopping trip with Jeffrey Epstein. And Epstein, they're in a Caribbean boutique, and Epstein's looking over the table at Mandelson, who's trying on a white belt. Apparently, it's an outrageously expensive belt. I know nothing of belts. But he claims that basically he barely really knew Epstein. He was friends with Ghislaine. And recently, he was quizzed by the Financial Times, who basically kind of doorstepped him and said, tell us about your relationship with Epstein. And he said, I regret meeting him or being introduced to him by his partner, Ghislaine Maxwell. I regret even more the hurt that he's caused to many women. I'm not going to get into this. It's a Financial Times obsession. And frankly, you can all fuck off. Yeah, the master of spin there. So,
wow.
Yeah.
He didn't spin his words then.
No. He decided to go full bore with that. It is one of those strange things where you don't really know, but it's never a good thing to have been photographed with Jeffrey Epstein. I don't think there's anyone on the planet who was like, I was so glad that I had that photograph stood next to Jeffrey Epstein. But very, very rare to find people praising him. Except for Donald Trump, obviously, who said that he'd known Jeff for 15 years. He's a terrific guy, great guy to be with, lots of fun. He certainly knows how to party. It's said that he likes beautiful women, even as much as me. Some of them are rather on the young side, but Jeff's a terrific guy, no doubt about it. I think that's the quote. Anyway, also on that day, CNN contributor Scott Jennings basically condemned critics who said that Elon Musk's straight-arm gesture where, you remember when he threw his heart out? He threw his heart right out to the crowd, then turned around and did it again.
My heart goes out to you.
That was it. My heart goes out to you. And he decided...
Nazi salute.
Yeah, he did a Nazi salute twice on television. But not according to contributor Scott Jennings. He says there's no way that it was a Sieg Heil. You see, because Catherine Rumpel had said, I don't understand why this guy keeps getting the benefit of the doubt, whether or not he believes this stuff personally, saying that basically they were discussing whether it was a Sieg Heil or not. And basically Jennings said, so look, he has a long record of supporting the Jewish people, number one. Number two, anybody who's asserting this thing he did on stage the other day was a Sieg Heil, which I just heard you say, lawyer up maybe, because it's an absolutely ridiculous thing to say. I'd just like to say on behalf of all the staff at Someday Call It Conspiracy, that was a Sieg Heil. So anyway, the lady responds by saying to Jennings, Rumpel responds, all right, why don't you do it on TV right now? And Jennings says, I'm not doing that. This salute trutherism is outrageous. This is the most outrageous. And he was interrupted again by Rumpel, who said, then it's fine. Just do it now. Do it right on television right now. Show me the action that Elon Musk did. And can you believe that he declined the young lady's offer?
Wow. Why would he do that?
It's strange, isn't it? Like, it is weird because, he's just made it very clear that there's nothing wrong with the action. It's certainly not a Sieg Heil. And so you would think that he would be able to do it on CNN and in front of all their sponsors and affiliates and get away with it. But who knows? Who knows what was in his heart? Maybe that was it. Maybe he's like a Care Bear or something. And he like if he does that, too much love will come out. Like, who knows? Anyway.
My heart goes out to you. What's in his heart?
But
Nazism.
Yeah, Nazism.
Fascism.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Fascism. Yep. Fascism.
So, I mean, he's sticking up for Elon, but somebody that wasn't sticking up for Elon was Dr. Philip Lowe. On January the 29th, so the following day, Dr. Philip Lowe, who's the chairman, the CEO, and the founder of Neurovigil iBrain. He's the iBrain inventor, and he speaks out to Elon. So he works in the field of neural implants and tech. He's doing similar things to what Neuralink is doing, I believe. Anyway, he posted on LinkedIn I've known Elon Musk at a deep level for 14 years, well before he was a household name. We used to text frequently. He would come to my birthday party and invite me to his parties. He would tell me everything about his woman problems. As sons of highly accomplished men who married Venuses, were violent and lost their fortunes, and who were bullied in high school, we had a number of things in common most people cannot relate to. We would hang out together late in Los Angeles. He would visit my San Diego lab. He invested in my company. Elon is not a Nazi per se. He is something much better, or much worse, depending on how you look at it. Nazis believed that an entire race was above everyone else. Elon believes that he is above everyone else. He used to think that he worked on the most important problems. When I met him, he did not presume to be a technical person. He would be the first person to say that he lacked the expertise to understand certain data. That happened later. Now he believes he has all the solutions. All this talk about getting to Mars to maintain the light of consciousness or about free speech absolutism is actually bullshit. Elon knowingly feeds people to manipulate them. Everything Elon does is about acquiring and consolidating power. That is why he likes far-right parties, because they are easier to control. That is also why he gave himself $56 billion, which could have gone to the people actually doing the work and innovations that he is taking credit for at Tesla. His lust for power is also why he did XAI and Neuralink to attempt to compete with OpenAI and Neurovigil, which is his company, despite being affiliated with them. Unlike Tesla and Twitter, he was unable to conquer those companies, and he tried to create rivals. I fired him with cause in December 2021 when he tried to undermine Neurovigil. Elon did 2 Nazi salutes. He did them for 5 main reasons. 1. He was concerned that the Nazi wing of the MAGA movement, under the influence of Steve Bannon, would drive him away from Trump, somewhere in the Eisenhower Executive Office building rather than the West Wing, which is where he wants to be. He was already feeling raw over the fact that Trump did not follow his recommendation for Treasury Secretary, and the Senate also did not pick his first choice. 2. He was upset that he had to go to Israel and Auschwitz to make up for agreeing with Nazi sympathizers online and wanted to reclaim his power, just like when he told advertisers to go fuck yourself. This has nothing to do with Asperger's. 3. There are some Jews he actually hates. Sam Altman is amongst them. 4. He enjoys a good thrill and knew exactly what he was doing. 5. His narcissistic self was hoping the audience would reflect his abject gesture back to him, thereby showing complete control and dominion over it, and increasing his leverage over Trump. That did not happen. Bottom line, Elon is not a Nazi, but he did give 2 Nazi salutes, which is completely unacceptable. Fair appraisal.
Well, yeah.
I mean, the interesting things to take out of that were that Elon was bullied at school, that he used to basically take no credit for things, but his sort of lust for power has grown, and the idea that his dad was violent and lost all his money, which is also true. I went back and watched, because like we did mention one in the previous thing, I sort of just in passing mentioned that Elon Musk had killed 3 black people. And I didn't really elaborate on that. He killed them during a home invasion. They were trying to burglarize his house. However, I went back and watched the Vlad video, and I was like, I'm not watching any more of these, because he justifies the killing of them by saying, you could have just said, you know what, it's South Africa. People have guns. They broke into my house. I'm going to kill somebody that breaks into my house. And I'd have gone, that's a horrible situation to be in. At least he didn't take any glee in it. However, what he did say was that he had to murder these black people because he was concerned that they might eat his baby daughter.
Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Wow.
Isn't it? But I think this article is absolutely spot on in his appraisal of Elon. It gives the impression of a sort of spoiled, petulant, damaged person. And I think that's what we see, to be quite honest. And yeah, he did do 2 Nazi salutes. So there you go. And I think it's absolutely right. He did it to impress the people that would like that sort of thing. And as we know from previous episodes, they did like that very, very much. So there we go. But on the same day, Donald Trump decides to clear up the mystery that has been plaguing New Jersey. Well, kind of clear it up. Can you remember, like, there was drones and they were being spotted over New Jersey, and like everyone got into
Yep.
a right tiz and a panic, and was going out and filming it. And Alex Jones became very convinced that this was aliens and that an alien invasion was going to happen. And other people became convinced that it was Russian or even Chinese, and that this was going to be the start of World War III. Whereas others, more sensible, Mick West was very good at this. He looked at a lot of the pictures and pointed out that these are planes and helicopters, you idiots. It's an airport. But Donald Trump cleared it up, basically, by saying they're not the enemy. They've been authorized to conduct research, which doesn't help anybody. Like, they're not the enemy. They've been authorized to conduct research. Now, you know, if this was 20 years ago, I'd be saying, that's alien disclosure. That's
What?
alien disclosure right
Yeah,
there.
like, what?
Isn't it? It's absolutely ridiculous.
Where did he say this? On True Social or something? Or
Yeah, he said it. He said it to sat at his desk doing speaking to reporters, and Levitt, basically, Carolyn Levitt said that the FAA had been authorized to fly the drone for research and various other reasons. So she did clear it up that there was the FAA. She said that many of the drones were also hobbyists, recreational, private individuals that enjoy flying drones, and claims that in time it got worse due to curiosity.
But were they drones or were they planes and helicopters, like Mick West said?
Well, it's different. It's difficult to say, because what happened was, I think there was a couple of drones, and then everybody went, "Oh my God," and started going down there and taking photos, and started mistaking normal planes for drones, and the whole thing became so confused that I think what happened was there was a drone probably once,
Okay, right.
and someone saw it, started looking and paying attention, misidentified lots of other things, and that was it. Because the FAA basically immediately attributed the sightings to lawful commercial drones, hobbyist drones, law enforcement drones, manned fixed wings aircraft, helicopters, and stars mistakenly reported as alien craft. So yeah, it was really something and nothing. But for a brief time, it encapsulated the conspiracy world until they forgot about it completely. And then for a brief second, Donald Trump's statement made it sound a little bit like he was actually admitting that there were aliens, but sadly he wasn't. So another person that's connected to conspiracies that we're still waiting to find the answers is Caroline Kennedy. She is the daughter of JFK, John F. Kennedy, the president, obviously killed by the mafia. No, we don't know. We don't mean that. We don't know. We don't care. It was either the mafia or the Yakuza. Anyway, Caroline Kennedy, daughter of JFK, she sent a letter describing why she felt that her uncle, RFK Jr., was not suitable to be in government. She wrote this open letter, and I won't read the whole thing, but there's some real choice details in it of things that described, say, Kennedy's personality, his mannerisms, the sort of person that he is. I mean, she says at one point, "It's no surprise to me that he keeps birds of prey as pets, because he is himself a predator." Kennedy loved to display one of his bizarre and gruesome habits in caring for his birds of prey, she said. He enjoyed showing off how he put baby chickens and mice in the blender to feed his hawks, Miss Kennedy alleged. It was often a perverse scene of despair and violence. So that's an unusual pastime.
Not according to other pastime that he's had.
Well, yeah, this is it. Cutting off the heads of dolphin or whales, was it, and dumping bear carcasses and things like that. Anyway, he's a strange guy. Now, to be fair, right, okay, like some people like keep birds of prey, snakes and stuff like that. You have to feed them animals, sometimes live animals and such like that. Like, but it certainly describes a certain glee that he took in it, and potentially a desensitization that is beyond
Psychopathy.
Yeah, beyond the scope of what some might consider normal. But anyway, she continued. Like Kennedy, who struggled with heroin addiction, she claims that he led his family members down the path of drug addiction simply through the strength of his personality, with the former Democrat's basement garage and dorm room being the centers of drug-fueled action, she alleged. She said, siblings and cousins who Bobby encouraged down the path of substance abuse suffered addiction, illness, and death, whilst Bobby has gone on to misrepresent, lie, and cheat his way through life. Which is, you wouldn't want that as a reference for a job, shall we say. She goes on to say, through his crusade against vaccination, he is willing to enrich himself by denying access to a vaccine that could prevent almost all forms of cervical cancer and which has been safely administered to millions of boys and girls. She also said that his views on vaccines are not reflective of the views of most Americans and the rest of the Kennedy family. But, she said, as he discourages frightened parents from vaccinating their sick children due to alleged risks, Kennedy continues to vaccinate his own children, Miss Kennedy said. So according to Caroline Kennedy, despite RFK Jr.'s purported anti-vaccine stance when it comes to his own children, he doesn't fuck about. He gets them vaccinated because he understands that he's a grifter and a liar and that vaccines save lives. She goes on to say Bobby is addicted to attention and power. Bobby preys on the desperation of parents and sick children, vaccinating his own children whilst building a following by hypocritically discouraging other parents from vaccinating theirs. His constant denigration of our healthcare system and conspiratorial half-truths he has told about vaccines have cost lives. Bobby expropriated my father's image and distorted President Kennedy's legacy to advance his own failed presidential campaign, and then grovelled to Donald Trump for a job. He continues to grandstand off my father's assassination and that of his own father. It is incomprehensible that someone who is willing to exploit their own painful family tragedies for publicity would be in charge of American life and death situations. She added that her father, John F. Kennedy, would be absolutely disgusted by the actions of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So, interesting. But the main takeaway is that he appears to be a bit of a psychopath. He seems to be a hypocrite. She claims that he vaccinates his own children, which would mean that he's just a maniac, an absolute maniac.
I'm not shocked.
No, I'm not.
It does seem like one.
Absolutely. There's more about Robert Kennedy, but as we'll come on to that later because we'll see what happens with that in the future, which is the past or the present if you're listening to it now. Anyway, let's not get bogged down with time. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz also called Elon Musk's backing of the right-wing parties in the European Union really disgusting. And Mr. Scholz said, what is new is that he's intervening in favour of right-wing politicians all over Europe. And this is really disgusting, and it's not good for the democratic development in all the European Union. And this is again absolutely true. He seems very, very fond of the Brothers of what they're called, Brothers of Italy, the far right party in Italy, and obviously the AfD. He's a fan of reform in Europe. I think he's professed a like of Orban. It's very much rumoured that he quite likes Putin, although Russia isn't actually in Europe yet. But watch this space, dun dun dun. Oh, we're all gonna die. It's funny. Anyway, so yeah, this is the point. More and more people in Europe are getting up in arms about Elon Musk being an interfering dickhead, which is only a good thing. Well, not that he's being an interfering dickhead, but the fact that people are standing up to it, and it's ridiculous. It is getting absolutely ridiculous. Like, a lot of this would be solved, interestingly, by the stuff that was being talked about at the EU Disinfo Lab, because a lot of it is about holding platforms accountable. The Digital Services Act and various other implementations concerning the spread of disinformation that would essentially mean that platforms like Twitter and Facebook would have to go back to actually making sure that output is accurate and not harmful, which may well be why Facebook has decided to completely go back against that, try and get in with the Rogan sphere and the Trump lot. Started dressing like fucking Eazy-E. Have you noticed that as well? Mark Zuckerberg.
He has started dressing like he's in NWA. I've noticed the black shirt and the gold chain,
and he's growing out his perm. He's going to have Jerry curls by the end of the day. I'm telling you.
I was going to say though, there was one social media platform that was very underrepresented at the conference.
Yes.
Obviously, there was nobody from X.
That's very true. That's true, actually.
But there was people from TikTok.
Yeah.
There's people from Meta.
Yep.
Which I feel really bad because, recently I was editing one of the upcoming episodes from the EU Disinfo Conference Midnight in Riga series.
Yeah.
Has a representative from Meta and a representative from TikTok. But the representative from Meta, she was really genuine in what she was doing. So I really wonder, the people that were genuine in trying to make a difference in fact-checking disinformation and stuff that actually worked for Meta, that helped outsource some of the fact-checking tasks. I wonder how they do feel about that. I wonder how, this lady specifically, feels about, what Zuckerberg has said is going to happen with Facebook and Meta. I have heard from a lot of people who were outsourced to do the fact-checking. They are, super pissed.
I bet they are. I bet everyone's pissed. Well, a lot of them are realising that they're going to be out of a job because the billionaire owner of the platform is pandering to a fascist.
Yeah.
And
community notes aren't going to work.
No, of course,
let me just set this straight. Right now, community notes are not going to work because truth cannot be democratized. At the end of the day, you don't get to vote on what facts are. Facts are facts. If we take X, for example, community notes on there don't even work.
No, as we said this on Conspiracy Cats last night, it's like community journalism. We have a community dentist, or a community surgeon, I'll do your vasectomy, John. Get in the shed with my Black & Decker. It's not gonna that would be an insane thing. And so this concept that and he knows exactly what he's doing. Elon is on Twitter all the time saying, "You are the media now. The legacy media is dead." The reason for that is because there's nothing accurate. You get all the news first. No, you don't get all the news first. You get all the gossip first. You get all the unfiltered shit first. You don't get context. You don't get understanding. You get stuff that goes through a lens and a filter. And if any of these people actually had even done the very basic media courses, say college or anything like that, they would understand that you give me 5 minutes of footage, I can give you 6 different narratives, right? Okay, you give me one picture, I can crop it in a dozen ways to make a narrative. I can frame things. I can come from a different perspective. I can omit facts. I can hype up certain elements of things. So this is why it's incredibly dangerous. It's ridiculously stupid. But that's why it's being encouraged, this superiority, this rejection of expertise, because the experts also call out the bullshit. And the second you start calling out the bullshit, you break the veneer of the echo chamber. And the echo chamber is required for political agendas. And it's just a tragedy, really. But that is essentially how it's working. Talking of citizen journalism, one thing that was woefully accurate from citizen journalists on the internet was a story that came out on that particular day that concerned sexual abuse and exploitation in Rotherham. But Rotherham, you say now? Yes, Rotherham. Anyway, some people might have noticed that why aren't lots of people all over that? Because that's very close to a lot of the things that Elon's been talking about. We've known about these grooming gangs, these Asian grooming gangs in places like Rochdale, Rotherham, Oldham, Telford, and various other places that happened several years ago. In fact, over the Christmas period, Elon was spreading cheer by reminding everybody of those in very, very twisted ways. Why has nobody been talking about this? Well, it's because it involved 2 former police officers. Basically, what happened was 2 former police officers were arrested over complaints from 4 victims of child sex exploitation in Rotherham. The police watchdog said the alleged offences were said to have been committed by the 2 former South Yorkshire police constables who were based in the town while they were on and off duty. A retired officer in his 60s is being investigated following complaints of child sexual abuse against 2 girls between 1995 and 1999, according to the Independent Office for Police Conduct. He was arrested in October on suspicion of misconduct in public office, attempted rape, and 3 counts of indecent assault, and was further arrested this month about reported sexual offences against a 3rd complainant between 1997 and 2002. The 2nd former officer, who was in his 50s, was arrested in December on suspicion of sexual assault and misconduct in public office, and 1 count of indecent assault over alleged incidents around 1995 to 1996. Yeah, I mean, again, a tiny bit salacious bringing that up, but all it was to show that basically, like, it's not sexual abuse per se that people are interested in. What they're interested in is using that as a weapon to attack other groups. Because if that wasn't the case, they would focus on all perpetrators of these crimes, and they simply don't. So anyway, so RFK was in his hearing for the job of health secretary, and Bernie Sanders pointed out that he was selling onesies, that babies wear, and basically they had anti-vax messages on them. This was I can't remember exactly what he said on them. Oh, that was it.
I'm about to go viral.
No, it was nothing as clever as that. These onesies that cost $26, right? Okay, one of them had on the front of it, unvaxxed and unafraid, and another one had on it, no vax, no problem. And Bernie Sanders was basically questioning RFK about this because he was basically saying that he's not anti-vax. He's saying, absolutely, I'm not anti-vax. And Bernie Sanders pointed out that you sell accessories for babies that carry an explicitly anti-vax message on them. I mean, one of the questions that the secondary question, and he may have asked this, I don't know, is like, what the fucking hell is wrong with you? Why the fucking hell? That is ridiculous. Like, that's like selling backpacks for school children in America with fucking targets on them. Like, it's that, despicable shit. But he was asked if he still believes that Lyme disease is a bioweapon, presumably escaped from some sort of a CIA lab, which he used to think. He was also asked if he still thinks that pesticides can turn you trans, which is a position that he has held in the past. He was also asked if he still believes that antidepressants are what causes children to go on school shootings, which is crazy. He denied being anti-vax, and actually, right at the beginning of the hearing, he said that I've never been anti-vax, and an audience member shouts out that he's a liar, and he's removed by the police. And then in the second pro-vaccine protest also stood up and started shouting at him at one point, and they were also removed by the police. But RFK has just been all over the place. He used to be pro-choice. He's now absolutely anti-abortion. And the questions are asked about all of these positions. He's also accused of pandering to Trump, who in the past he has been very, very negative about. Senator Warnock, at one point, asks RF Jr. if he stands by certain statements that he's made about the CDC, such as comparing them to Nazi death camps and sexual abusers in the Catholic Church, as well as saying that CDC workers belong in jail. And again, he was evasive about that, saying that I didn't really say that, but he absolutely did say all of these things. It's all very easy to find. Also, in 2023, speaking about atrazine, RFK said, I think a lot of problems we see in kids, and particularly boys, is probably underappreciated of that. How much of that is coming from chemical exposures, including a lot of the sexual dysphoria that we're seeing. Right, so that's two things that some people might have picked up on. One, that antidepressants cause school shootings, which is an absolute mainstay of InfoWars, that all school shooters are into computer games, they're on antidepressants which send you psychotic, and they may well be under mind control. Now, this is very easily checked because antidepressants are ubiquitous, and the only place to where there's shootings is America en masse. Per capita, more people take antidepressants in different countries, and you don't get the same levels of violence, even in countries where access to firearms is available. So that's just absolutely bullshit. The second thing that he's talked about, some people may go, atrazine, I've heard of atrazine. Where have I heard of atrazine? It's turning the freaking frogs gay. Now,
that one.
Yeah, now atrazine. Now, some people, including Joe Rogan, will say that turned out to be true. That turned out to be absolutely true. That crazy bloke that looked like a genie, that made the claim. His experiments showed that this was the case, and this has been repeated by Alex. And this is one of those Alex was right things. This is bullshit. What happened was, in this particular experiment, this guy showed that certain frogs that have a trait in them to become hermaphroditic change sex.
Yep.
And he claimed that this was caused by the atrazine. And Alex Jones oversimplified that to say that it turned the frogs gay, which is not the same thing.
Nope.
But neither of them matter, really, because no one in the world has ever been able to replicate the experiments that man did. And he refuses to show working on his actual stuff. So it's nonsense. But that's become a bit of a truism because because people have said, oh, no, apparently it did. But also, in 2013, RFK had lied and said that the vaccine industry had the opportunity to remove dangerous material from their medicine, but didn't. And he said, I can't tell you why they did it, but he's seen people get caught up in institutional vortexes in which they go to extremes and make decisions merely to protect themselves. To me, this is like Nazi death camps. So that's when he said that he made the comparison to Nazi death camps. Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado asked, did you write in your book, and I quote, it's undeniable that African AIDS is an entirely different disease from Western AIDS. Yes or no, Mr. Kennedy? And he responded, I'm not sure. But the sentence cited by Bennett appeared in a Kennedy book called The Real Anthony Fauci, and it was part of a conspiratorial section in which Kennedy baselessly insinuated that the number of people being diagnosed with AIDS in Africa had been inaccurately inflated to enrich people whose organizations get money to help fight disease on that continent. Also,
hold on. How can you say I don't know if you wrote it in your book?
Well, there is that. But
and how long ago was this book written? If it was about Fauci, it came written in the past year or two.
It came out a couple of years ago. It's the one where
if someone said, "Did you say this in your lyrics 15 years ago?" I'd be like, "Yeah, I remember. I wrote it." Maybe that's the key. He didn't write it.
Well, maybe it's that, or maybe he's just a lying shit that's tried to wriggle out of all the mental stuff that he's done in the past because he's an opportunist. Also, did everyone spot African AIDS? It's an entirely different disease from Western AIDS.
Yeah, I did notice that.
Now, to the uninitiated, usually what that means is Western is interchangeable with white, and it's not the sort of phrase that would be used by somebody who is cool, shall we say. It's often a dog whistle insinuating that the West is the best, Western superiority and exceptionalism. That's the word I'm really looking forward to, and it ties into this idea that we're separate people from Africans, and it feeds into subtle and not so subtle racism.
And on the conspiratorial level, is that the African AIDS comes from the monkeys and the Western AIDS comes from the military.
Oh, is that what it is as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, the African one came because they fuck monkeys. There's that ridiculous concept.
Yeah. That's what the African versus Western AIDS means. So to have someone like RFK Jr. write that that's pretty fucked up.
It's absolutely fucked up. And also, just to sort of elaborate on it, like, that's how, to quote Dave Chappelle, that's how they say we got AIDS. A man fucked a monkey. Word. You don't fuck a monkey on Wednesday and then go fuck Charlene on Thursday. You're too far gone. You then just, like, you come into the club? Nah, man. Just gonna stay in. Have you not?
No.
Oh, not ruin the next bit. You come into the club? Nah, man. Stay in. Have sex with my monkey. And then he does a very funny bit which I shan't ruin. But yeah, but it makes sense. It's nonsense. It's like, yeah, it's fuck off. You're not having sex with a monkey and then going having sex with somebody else. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, and again, that's absolute nonsense. There is some suggestion that it might have come from eating monkey meat, but I don't even know if that's true. It's just, it's just couched in racism, isn't it? But yeah, he wasn't sure if that. But he also basically in 2023 on the Lex Friedman show, he'd said that no vaccine had ever been proven to be safe and effective, which is a complete lie. And it was also on that show that he said that antidepressants are the cause of school shootings. So that was this year, and he couldn't remember. Oh, sorry. Oh no, God. Look at the time. Oh, nature, you win again. This was very recently. So yeah, this was very recently, but I mean, the man is mentally ill. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, it would be dangerous if he got the role. And at the minute, because we're in the past, we don't know if he got the role, which he did in the future, which is also the past now. Oh, no, let's not get bogged down in that. Anyway, to give you an idea of how this is very, very dangerous, and this bleeds completely into the conspiratorial world, because a lot of people are going, yes, finally, somebody who's anti-vax is on board. And somebody that was very much happy about this. This is a lady called Jackie Devoy, who has been in. I mean, for example, she believes that midazolam was used to kill people, that COVID doesn't exist. Although I will point out that she stole that theory and panders it off at her own. The theory actually came from a Catholic priest called Patrick Palinko, and he came up with the idea because he was. But this guy is an absolute liar. He's got this real strange idea that people shouldn't be allowed to die if they're in huge amounts of pain. If they can be kept alive on life support, they should be, until God decides that they should die, even if it's cruel and they're in massive amounts of pain. And he's most famous for this one particular case where somebody is on life support. His wife wants to take him off it, but his family or members of his family who are deeply religious believe his thing, that they don't want him to die, and so he was arguing for that.
But how does that make sense? Like, okay, even as a religious person, right? Putting them on life support is taking that person's fate out of God's hands. If you're going to be really, really like studious about it, like,
I mean, it didn't seem to make any sense at the time. Anyway, he was the first person to bring up the idea that we'd mass stockpiled midazolam, which is a sedative. And then idiots in the conspiracy world noted that in some states, midazolam is one of the ingredients that is used in lethal injections, executions. However, I don't remember the details, because at the time of this, I Googled it and looked it up. And the first story that I found was midazolam keeps man alive in execution. And what it apparently, they were saying that executions had failed or been far more drawn out and painful because they were worried that midazolam was actually acting against the other drug. Midazolam isn't the thing that kills you. Midazolam is the thing that stops you from going into seizures and panicking, whilst the other thing kills you. But they were actually discovering that in these particular lethal injections, that potentially it had some sort of counter effect that, in essence, kept the person alive for a bit longer. And sometimes, I think in one case, I may be completely wrong about this, I think in one case it failed and he had to be done again later or whatever. But people picked up on this concept of midazolam And Jackie Devoy had been very sort of like in touch with people who felt that their parents or that relatives of theirs had been put on something that was called the Liverpool Care Pathway. Some people suggest might have been exploited and or over prescribed. It was basically helping people who, in the last stages of life, die with some dignity by using drugs to help them along their way. But I think actually it was found that there wasn't some sort of mass murder, but it has been put on like that it was state sanctioned killings and stuff like this. Anyway, Jackie Devoy basically came up with this concept that midazolam, because he nicked it off Patrick Palinko, because we bought a load of midazolam, that must be being used to kill people, despite the fact that there's lots of other drugs that would be far better to kill people, far cheaper, far easier to administer. And also, let's not forget, what this theory basically implies is that doctors and nurses everywhere across the entire country en masse were taken into the staff room and given a briefing that you've now got to kill patients. You've got to murder them. They would survive if you didn't give them this injection, but you've got to give this injection and keep giving them this injection until they're dead. And that is the way that, what was it, nearly 250,000 people were killed by COVID? Apparently they weren't. They were mass murdered by doctors and nurses. And yet, not a single one of these doctors and nurses refused to do it or has come out against it. And people might say, well, maybe they were caused, they signed NDAs. Are you fucking mad? Are you stupid? Are you fucking mad and stupid, you stupid mad fuck? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, this is such an implausible bullshit thing. And it's so cruel as well, because it basically, people that were on the front lines trying to help people that had no chance to die with dignity, are now being framed as murderers by fucking stupid armchair twats that want to make their lives fucking more interesting because they're failed journalists. Fuck these people. Fuck them in the ear. I hope something bad happens to them. Well, hopefully something bad might happen to them, because going back to our earlier point, Jackie Devoy has decided to completely ignore her doctor's advice about her dangerously high blood pressure because she knows best. And this is the attitude that bleeds into the conspiratorial world. She tweeted out proudly, I told the nurse today that I won't be taking the pills to fix my high blood pressure, but will attempt to lower it by eating healthily, not drinking alcohol, and doing more exercise. I said I'd rather deal with the cause and not mask the symptoms. She shook her head at me and told me that if my high blood pressure does turn out to be hereditary, changing my diet and lifestyle will do nothing to help, and that my blood pressure will remain high unless I take medication. I was gobsmacked. Honestly, where do they get these people? Right.
Wow.
So there's a bit to unpack there, right? Treat the cause rather than the symptoms. That is a trope that goes around the conspiracy world, that medicine is a bit of a business, and that they will treat the symptoms of something rather than the underlying cause. And it also ties into sort of wacky new German medicine types of things like, oh, the cancer is the symptom of your bad thoughts or whatever. Like, and certain things like that, and that you can detox your way or supplement your way out of any disease, or Dr. Sebi it and take fruit until you're so alkaline that you pop or whatever, like shit like this. And none of it's true. It's all bullshit. But also, basically, she's rejecting advice because for two reasons. One, because basically she thinks she knows better. And two, because she's highly suspicious of the industry and doesn't think that there's any reason that they might be telling her the truth.
And three, she's Jackie Devoy and she's a lunatic.
This is also true. Like, you know, and I do feel a little bit bad about talking about it because she's essentially a private citizen, but at the same time, she's no fucker, actually. She did documentaries and all sorts, and she tweeted this out. So
she's not just a believer; she's an influencer. She's fair game.
Fine, fair enough. Didn't want people to think that they were picking on a slightly insane old lady. Also on Twitter that day, Elon Musk's mum, May Musk, asks people to stop calling her son a Nazi.
I'm getting Grimes flashbacks about he's really good at the computer game.
Yeah. Basically,
Mom, can you tell them I'm not a Nazi?
well, I mean, someone called Insurrection Barbie, who has the tag defiantly free. She'd put out, and you've got to remember, because these are free speech advocates, Insurrection Barbie, she's very much about the First Amendment and such like that. She says, I think it's time to sue Tim Walz and Rachel Maddow. The Nazi hoax has gone on long enough. And this is about people calling Elon out for his Nazi salutes, his promotion of Nazis on Twitter, and his promotion of Nazi political parties. But Insurrection Barbie thinks that basically, like, that really goes against the pale. And May Musk, she tweets out, agree, otherwise they won't stop, which I responded to by saying, Elon's dad said that you and your entire family are Nazis. Was he lying? Surely then you should sue him. And bizarrely, she didn't respond to me. Now, just to explain, Elon Musk in the past has explained that May Musk's family were absolute Nazis, aristocrats in Canada, huge fans of Hitler, and they were even more racist than him. And he was, as has admitted in the past, being a white supremacist, and his father was a white supremacist. So there you go. That's where that comes from, which is she didn't have a response to that. Like, so, yeah, it's bizarre. There is a little rhyme that you can do along to the Addams Family. That he's got a Nazi mother. His father. What was the lyrics? He's got a Nazi mother. His dad's his sister's lover, and they both fuck each other. The sad man's family. Dun-dun-dun-dun. Anyway, some people are finding out that actually Trump's, roughshod riding of policies and mass destruction of systems in America isn't working out for them. And I am Mukhtar, who is a very fun guy to follow on Twitter. He posts a TikTok of this American woman whose name I don't catch, but apparently she's a bit of an influencer. She's a bit of the sort of a MAGA influencer, one of these sort of all-American, this is how I live my life, blah, blah, blah. I think she's a bit God's gun and government type and stuff. Anyway, what she says is that unfortunately her husband's about to be deported. Now, she makes it very clear that he didn't vote because he wasn't able to, but he would have voted for Trump. And she did vote for Trump. She's born in America, and he moved to America on a scholarship, and they met at university. And they've been married for 3 years, and they've got a family. They live together. He's got a job. He was there, blah, blah, blah. He's done everything the right way as far as they can see. But unfortunately, he's going to be deported. And there is a slight irony to this, is that he says that he's going to be deported because he doesn't have a full vaccine schedule. And the reason he doesn't have a full vaccine schedule is because he refused to take the COVID vaccine. And this is the policy of the previous Trump administration. Oh. This is it. Not the current one, the previous one. So when COVID was happening in 2019, it was put into law that COVID became a required vaccine for traveling, obviously, but also for immigration and emigration. So
it was mandated for immigrants.
Yes.
Right.
As far as I can tell. So, yes, particularly for visas and green cards or whatever they're called. It's a bit complicated, the system is. But yeah, but the long and short of it is it just highlights the stupidity and hypocrisy of absolutely everybody involved. To be honest, though, the guy looks like he might have, in many ways, dodged a bullet, because Donald Trump signed an executive order on the same day to prepare the detention facility at Guantanamo Bay, which he said could be used to hold up to 30,000 immigrants and criminals deported from the United States. He says some of them are so bad, we don't even trust the countries of origin to hold them because we don't want them coming back. So we're going to send them out to Guantanamo. This will double our capacity immediately. So if he's having problems dumping people in other countries, then he's suggesting that, well, why don't we just put them in a prison in Cuba? Now, that's not great, because there's a reason that these countries aren't taking them. And it's probably because they might not be destined for that place. There's already been numerous examples of people being picked up on mistaken identity or an administrative error and taken to the wrong country, or basically deported when they shouldn't have been deported. What this suggests, or should suggest to people, is that there's going to be a certain amount of slapdashery in the way that this is done. What it is essentially doing is it's bypassing normal legal channels, and it's bypassing normal legal channels in such a way that should arouse suspicion in people. And Cuba recognized this. They responded, because obviously Guantanamo Bay, despite it being an American military base, is in Cuba. And they said that this idea shows contempt towards the human condition and international law, which is a fairly strong rebuke. Bruno Rodriguez Prila slammed the US government's decision to imprison migrants at the Guantanamo naval base, an enclave where it created torture chambers and indefinite detention. He wrote that the Cuba's president Miguel Diaz-Canel called the plan an act of brutality. It's troubling, basically. It is extremely, extremely troubling. And it just shows. It shows a willingness to dehumanize people en masse as well, in a very racist way. Because if anybody is saying that that's okay, the only justification for that would be because they're illegal immigrants, and it's like, which is no justification for that. And it's stupid as well, because again, there are established and working channels for deportation.
Yeah, you don't kind of want to send them to the place that you would send terrorists.
No, but it's all grandstanding, but it's militaristic grandstanding that falls perfectly in line with this concept, with certain concepts of fascism, essentially.
Well, yeah, like I'm saying, though, they're kind of equating immigrants with terrorists in that same sense.
Oh, very much. That's a good point. I'd not really thought about that as well, because it puts that in people's minds as well. They're going to a place for terrorist detention. They're terrorists. They must deserve it. Shit, not even thought about it like that. Yeah, so it's even more dehumanizing. I mean, that's appalling. Like, and again, people like Alex Jones that should be up in arms against stuff like that, because it goes against everything that he used to stand for.
Yeah, he was even against like sending terrorists to Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah. All for this one though, apparently. Like,
wow.
Yeah, seems perfectly on board with this. It doesn't. Yeah.
I'd love to give a quick recommendation for a film though. If anyone's like interested in like kind of what was going on in Guantanamo Bay, in say the mid 2000s, when a lot of Al Qaeda terrorists were there, there's a film called Camp X-Ray, with Kristen Stewart in it, and it's absolutely fantastic. It really shows depth of character from both sides, from the prisoner and from the some of the soldiers that were there.
And I would highly recommend Skinny Puppy, whose music was used as torture against.
True.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, they ended up suing the government for £666,000, and then called their next album "Weapon" in response to this. But everyone should listen to Skinny Puppy.
Should they though?
Yes, they absolutely.
People
should.
Considered it was like good music to torture people to.
Well, I don't think they just.
I think probably why you like it.
Well, maybe but I think
that's very standard of you.
I think they did it on like a sort of 7-second loop or something, so it was annoying. So it was like that, and it's incredibly.
No, they played Metallica as well.
Well, it's incredibly abrasive, and it's quite.
Yeah.
I think it's just really loud and with obnoxious timing cuts, so that you can't get into a groove or something like that.
Lots of the prisoners obviously were like Afghans.
Yeah.
So they weren't like used to Western music and distorted guitars and heavy drums and all that kind of thing, and stuff that they, for lack of better way of putting it. Considered satanic.
Yeah. Although afterwards, apparently, quite a lot of them formed some really decent bands. But also
allegedly,
they'd have been awake for like 3 and 4 days as well. It was all part of a sort of for want of a better word, a collage of techniques that were used to basically like torture and disorientate people. Basically,
I'm definitely gonna check on Spotify if there's any Afghan metal bands.
There might be. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there might be. So. But who knows? Anyway, on the same day, DOGE claims already to be saving $1 billion a day. $1 billion. And it techs out, right? DOGE is saving the federal government approximately $1 billion a day, mostly from stopping the hiring of people of unnecessary positions, deletion of DEI, and stopping improper payments to foreign organisations, all consistent with the president's executive orders. A good start, though this number needs to increase to $3 billion a day. Now, there's absolutely no evidence to support this. No figures have been shown. In fact, despite this pledge for transparency, no one really knows what the bloody hell's going on at DOGE. They keep sort of chopping away and cutting things. A lot of people are pointing out that no, you really shouldn't be cutting that. That's like cancer research. And no, you really shouldn't be cutting that. That's going to mean that bad things happen. For example, in the future where we are now, which is now the past when you're listening to this currently, already there's been casualties from this. I believe it was in Vietnam, although I may be wrong. A US aid program was cancelled. So a woman was turned away from a hospital where she needed oxygen and went home and died. And that's just one that people know about because they've managed to make the connection. But this is going to be the result. And this is what's so stupid about all these people like Alex Jones specifically saying, oh, this foreign aid, we need to cut all foreign aid, simultaneously complaining about influxes of asylum seekers and migrants and stuff like that, and not making the connection that aid programs help to stop the conditions that force people to try and seek a better life, often through illegal measures. It's such a short-sighted, selfish, childish, isolationist attitude. It's embarrassing as well. It's really fucking embarrassing. Like it's the sort of thing that a spoilt toddler would have that attitude. And it's like, for Christ's sake. And at the same time, I guess me, it's like, at the same time, Elon Musk is like, we should go to Mars and stuff like that. It's like, but I suspect he's far more Starship Troopers than Star Trek. If people get those references, then yeah. But
I get it. I understand those references.
No, we were saying that basically, like that lady on CNN challenged that person to do a Nazi salute at work.
Yeah.
Someone decided to try and do a Nazi salute at work on the 30th of January. Do you want to have a guess and see who that was? Who has the sort of profession where it might be appropriate for them to do a Nazi salute?
A SS officer.
Yes, it was. It was an SS officer, and he did it at work. He got away with it fine, thus proving Elon Musk's point. No, it was Calvin Robinson. Calvin Robinson. Calvin Robinson.
That was close.
Not far off.
If I had said Catholic priest.
Calvin Robinson.
Okay.
So
Calvin.
Well, he's a priest in charge.
Please give me context.
Well, Calvin Robinson, who currently who held the title of priest in charge at St. Paul's Anglican Catholic Church in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
You've just spoiled it already. What held?
Well, he did the gesture at the end of a speech, which was actually on the 25th of January, but the video of it didn't come out until the 30th. And nobody had seen it. And this was the National Pro-Life Summit in Washington, D.C. And he quoted Elon Musk by saying, "My heart goes out to you," before mimicking the salute, and then giving a little grin like a schoolboy that has just made a joke about Mike hunt or something like that.
I've seen enough Calvin Robinson to know exactly the smirk you're talking about.
It was a similar smirk to the one where he was dancing to YMCA whilst waiting in line to be a sycophant to Donald Trump.
And then getting ignored.
Yeah, then getting ignored because he's a deeply unimpressive man, and possibly due to Donald Trump's homophobia. Who can say? But Calvin. So the Bishop Chandler, who's the basically the head, is the presiding bishop of the Anglican province of America and bishop ordinary of the diocese of the Eastern United States. He saw the video, and basically at the same time, he said, from the Anglican Church statement on Calvin Robertson, at approximately 3 p.m. today, members of the College of Bishops of the ACC were made aware of a post made on X showing the end of a speech made by Calvin Robertson at the National Pro-Life Summit in Washington, D.C. In it, he closed his comments with a gesture that many have interpreted as a pro-Nazi salute. We cannot say what was in Mr. Robertson's heart when he did this. His action appears to be an attempt to curry favour with certain elements of the American political far right by provoking its opposition. Mr. Robinson had been warned that online trolling and other such actions, whether in service of the left or the right, are incompatible with a priestly vocation, and he was told to desist. Clearly he is not, and as such, his licence in his church has been revoked. He is no longer serving as a priest in the ACC. Furthermore, we understand that this is not just an administrative matter. The Holocaust was an episode of unspeakable horror enacted by a regime of evil men. We condemn Nazi ideology and anti-Semitism in all its forms, and we believe that those who mimic the Nazi salute, even as a joke or an attempt to troll their opponents, trivialize the horror of the Holocaust and diminish the sacrifice of those who fought against its perpetrators. Such actions are harmful, divisive, and contrary to the tenets of Christian charity. Finally, we pray that God will give us the grace to lay aside our unhappy divisions, and we commend our nation, ourselves, to his almighty protection. So Calvin Robinson fucked around and found out, because, it's outrageous to make aspersions that could connect the Catholic Church to Nazis.
I mean, that was a pretty based statement, though. I mean, like, to be fair, like.
They were absolutely brilliant. I was taking the piss. I was taking the piss because of the Catholic Church's seemingly inaction and some might say support through rat lines of Nazi officers during the World War II. I was making a joke, being a cunt. That's what I do. But that statement...
Yeah, we know.
But the statement was spot on. And it was such a petulant, pathetic thing for Calvin Robinson to do. Again, and such a bandwagon jump as well. Like, do you know what I mean?
But they called it out, exactly that.
Absolutely.
He was trying to pander and troll to a specific type of people.
Absolutely. Good. Fuck Calvin Robinson. Fuck the horse that he rode it on. Again, I hope terrible things happen to him.
I bet that he didn't take it as he was being treated fairly.
No, he did feel that he was being persecuted. He also tried for a time to say that he hadn't actually been kicked out of the church at all, despite the statement from the head of the church saying that he'd definitely been kicked out of the church. He then, I think, started asking for money, and people started to point out, hang on, what happened to that fucking money that we sent you to buy that island?
He went to Disneyland with it.
No, that was a previous one.
Oh yeah,
he was trying to buy that island and turn it into Christendom. He was going to call it.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh dear, like, yeah. So speaking of like making embarrassing public gestures to appeal to dreadful people,
that seems to be the theme of this.
Somewhat. Someone decided to interview Andrew Tate. Can you have a guess?
I don't know. I'm going to go back to what's that dread? Candace Owens.
No, but no? that's not a bad guess, because she does interview him all the time, because Andrew Tate and her husband George Farm
okay.
are friends.
Russell Brand.
I'll give you a clue. You made him look a right twat.
Ooh, George Galloway.
Gormless George!
Yes!
Gormless George decided that it was a good idea to interview Andrew Tate. Not only that, he decided, because he expresses this in the interview, he's such a big fan of Andrew Tate, the accused sex trafficker, that he took his wife and children over to Romania, and they stayed for a time with Tate and took photos together. And George did an interview with the Tates in which they lied and said that all the charges against them had been dropped, the case had been dismissed, and they are simply waiting for administrative actions to take place so that they will be free. At no point did anyone point out, well, hang on, why are you still on house arrest?
Oh, God. Like I've said a million times, why do we support the worst people?
Well, I mean,
well, to be fair, like, I guess the question isn't actually fair because it's about George Galloway and he always supports the worst people.
Yeah, he does have a tendency to sort of lionize utter shit.
Like even Saddam, he was like, "Yeah, Saddam, he's awesome.
All right.
We love Saddam.
Yeah, he's cool." Like, yeah, absolutely. But
Jesus,
shit. You know what? Does he want at least fucking hat on that hat that Saddam used to wear? Am I remembering that right? Maybe I've just mashed that together. That might not be a real thing. That my brain does do that sometimes. Anyway, but this is a question you're saying, like, why do we support the worst people? And like, why does he support the Tates? Because he's promoted them lots apparently, and they've done at least 5 interviews, or 5 sort of things where he's promoted either them or Bruv, which was their short-lived political party. If you remember, he was going to become Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
What, is it over?
Well, I mean, I don't think it ever started.
I mean, there is an election going, is there?
No, I don't think I don't think it was ever really a thing. But some people, and this is not necessarily our opinion, but some people have suggested that it might be to do with the fact that was uncovered recently that in Tristan Tate is actually the largest single donor to George Galloway's political party that has given money to them. Apparently,
no way.
Apparently, it's only £5,000, right? Okay.
I thought they were giving money to Reform.
Well, they may well be, but they also, in June 2024, split over 2 payments, sent £5,000 to George Galloway.
Oh,
or to his political party. But yes, apparently
to George.
Well,
allegedly.
Yeah. So this is it, and it's yeah, it doesn't look good, does it? It just, I mean, even on a very, very basic level, right? Okay, it's just, why are you promoting someone like Andrew Tate? Like, even if you ignore the fact that, why are you taking your children to meet this man? Like, that's just unhinged. But even if it was just the sort of, the man doesn't need any more fucking promotion, right? Okay, he's a grifter and a shit, and he's not even interesting. And something just popped into my mind. He's like, well, where do you draw the line? Like, because you're interested in serial killers, Charles Manson. You've watched all the interviews with Charles Manson like hundreds and hundreds of times. Now, you know what? I've just resolved it in my mind. You know when we're allowed to interview Andrew Tate? When he's in fucking prison. That seems fair. That seems fair, actually. Yeah, you know what? I've reconciled it with myself. Yeah, do that. Anyway, someone else that's desperately trying to reconcile themselves is the BBC. And on the same day, they actually released a report that was really critical of themselves for not stopping Russell Brand do the terrible things that Russell Brand is alleged to have done. It said a BBC review into the conduct of Russell Brand during his time with the broadcasters found that a number of people felt unable to raise concerns about him and believed that he would always get his way. The review was carried out by Peter Johnston, who's the BBC Director of Editorial Complaints, and he focused on Brand's behaviour on BBC Six Music and BBC Radio 2 in the years between 2006 and 2008. And apparently this review, which cost over £600,000, looks at the reports that Brand had urinated into cups or bottles whilst in the studio, thrown objects in fits of rage, allegations of sex on the premises, including with competition winners, and exposure of himself whilst in the studio in front of staff and guests, and also on-air comments that were... The concept was that he'd made certain comments on air that were embarrassing to certain people, but you wouldn't know it unless you were the things. So it was like a kind of form of harassment. So he said the culture at the time undoubtedly influenced what was acceptable and tolerated, but I've found that a number of individuals had concerns about Brand's behaviour, which they felt unable to raise then. Many interviewees believed, rightly or wrongly, that Russell Brand would always get his way, and therefore they stayed silent. Which is not great for Brand, who's basically trying to... I mean, it's not damning that, is it? It's not saying, yes, we caught him sexually abusing somebody, but it certainly paints into the picture that he's entitled and that he's over the top in his behaviour and potentially that he doesn't understand boundaries, which doesn't paint the most positive picture considering his circumstances at the time.
It also says that there were people willing to speak about him.
Yes, yeah. But that for whatever reason they felt stifled. But it does indicate a pattern of a certain behaviour, doesn't it? Also on that day, very, very sadly, there was a helicopter crash. A helicopter crashed into a plane in Washington, and 67 people died. Donald Trump, who was obviously the president, decided that his own particular brand of sensitivity was possibly the best way to speculate about what had been the main cause of the problem.
After his Christmas message, I'm not really looking forward to this one.
Well, he was confused because he basically said, well, the airplane was was on a perfect and routine line of approach to the airport. The helicopter was going straight at the airplane for an extended period of time. It is clear night. The lights on the plane were blazing. Why didn't the helicopter go up or down or turn? I mean, he's trying to blind us with science there, isn't he? Like,
why is he asking?
Why didn't the helicopter go up or down or turn? I mean, it's just so silly. But it gets worse because he then decides that the reason for the crash was... Okay, let me see if... I mean, I don't know whether you've seen this. Can you guess what the potential cause of this horrible crash might have been?
Immigrants and fentanyl.
Nearly, not far off. It was DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. He said
I nearly went with like black trans people.
Well, I mean, like
that would have been there.
Give it a few weeks, he might say that, and that might be strangely prescient, Brent. But anyway. He was asked by somebody, do you think that the crash was the result of diversity hiring? And he said it just well could have been. And he went on to attack Obama and Biden and say that they lowered the requirements for air traffic controllers in the service of DEI. Their policy was horrible and their politics was even worse, he said. That's not true. It's absolutely not true. There are incredibly high standards to be air traffic controllers. He went on to say that a group within the FAA determined that the workforce was too white when they had concerted efforts to get the administration to change that and to change it immediately. This was in the Obama administration. And so a president of the United States of America suggested that potentially the reason that this helicopter crash was, I mean, reading between the lines, he's suggesting that because there weren't enough white people working there. But on Thursday, some reporters asked him whether he was getting ahead of the investigation because, the crash had simply just happened. And he's blaming that DEI initiatives were connected. And Trump said that he was right. And the reason that he knew that he was right was because, and I quote, I have common sense, okay?
Not like, oh, I know the actual case.
No. It's just down to common sense. It's obvious, isn't it? It's because of this policy of not having enough black people in the as air traffic controllers, which was apparently a policy of the Biden and Obama administrations that ignored safety protocols and looked to mediocre candidates by inference that caused this plane crash. And he goes on to say that we have to have our smartest people as air traffic controllers. It doesn't matter what they look like, how they speak, who they are. They have to be talented, naturally talented. Geniuses. Can't have regular people doing their job. We can't have regular people doing this job. They won't be able to do it, but will restore faith in American air travel. Which is also a really shitty move because he's basically implying that it's the air traffic controllers and we don't know what was the problem. Like, can you even imagine being in that job and knowing that you're not doing anything wrong and the president suggesting that maybe it was your fault? And if you just so happen to be not white, you could understand why people might potentially feel persecuted.
And he's saying it's definitely your fault and not just maybe your fault.
And let's not fuck about. You've just out the window of your job witnessed 67 people die. That's a shitty thing to do. That's a really, really shitty thing to do. But bizarrely, Fox's Jesse Waters decided to try and raise that bar.
Hold on. No. That's not very bizarrely at all when you follow up with Fox's presenter.
You don't know what he said.
Hit me.
Let's do a game with this one. Let's see if you can guess. He blamed two specific groups that were to blame for the crash. Or he didn't believe, he said that they were probably the result of the Obama-Biden administration trying to give jobs to two specific types of people. Oh. Let's see if you can guess.
It's going to be transgenders.
Yeah,
and it's going to be... Which immigrant shall we go with? Let's go with Mexican.
Not a bad guess, but no. And I'm not surprised that you didn't get this because
they just hate everyone. Like he said, throw shit at the walls and see what sticks.
It's worse than that. Like Fox's Jesse Waters said on Fox News that the crash was probably the result, or may have been the result, of the Obama-Biden administration trying to give jobs to dwarves and people with transgender issues. So, which sort of implies to me that he's saying that they couldn't see the screen. They couldn't see over the top of their keyboard to see the screen, and that's why a helicopter crashed into a plane.
Wow.
Dwarves.
Yeah, dwarves. Shout out to my very good friend Haley. And obviously Warwick Davis. She is Warwick Davis's sister-in-law.
Oh, cool.
She is.
You know Warwick Davis?
Yeah, I know Warwick. I know Warwick.
You know fucking.
You know it by name. Yeah.
Why have you never told me that you know fucking
Illuminati confirmed?
Wicket the Ewok. That's insane.
Yeah.
No way. He's cool.
Yeah. Well, I again, like I said, I know him through Haley, but we've met multiple times back in the day. If he saw me today, he'd be like, "Oh, hi, Brett." He'd get my name wrong, Brett. Like obviously, but
yeah,
yeah.
Oh, badass. Anyway, JD Vance. Speaking of Ewoks,
I thought the same thing. I just remembered your goddamn tweet.
JD Vance.
Who did you say that to? Tim Young. Was it?
Oh, somebody like that. Yeah,
one of them idiots.
Yeah, he looks like an Ewok. He does look like an Ewok. What can he do? It just happens to look like an Ewok. But JD Vance is not wicked. He's a cunt, and he basically insinuated that if they can't find some sort of minority or woman to directly blame for the crash, it's still somehow the fault of DEI. He said, when you don't have the best standards in who you're hiring, it means on the one hand you're not getting the best people in government, which is fucking ironic considering that he has a job.
So because of DEI, we could get really fantastic black candidates and really shit white candidates.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that people...
and they both get the job.
Yeah.
Is that what he's saying?
He's just being a dickhead, right? Because, like, one of the things that people, this is another thing that is actually happening, is that a lot of women are getting sacked because DEI is not just about, people assume it's become it means black or Hispanic essentially, or gay sometimes, right? But nobody's hired on a quota of gayness. Like, oh, we need 3 more buys in section 4, otherwise, like, we're going to be fine. Like, but DEI is due to basically like practices of rich white males tending to hire rich white males, or other men, and masculine men tending to hire men, essentially, and of ignoring female candidates and ignoring people out of their own ethnic group, which used to be born out of sort of sexism and racism, but also is sort of connected to sort of intrinsic tribalistic instincts that we've got because we're basically like, a gnat's hair's breadth away from being animals. But so this is the thing. DEI as a concept is being misrepresented. Like, it's like BLM or CRT or any of those things. It's essentially a dog whistle. It's a shorthand for not white, straight man. Yeah. But basically, it should be pointed out that standards for getting a job as an air traffic controller are extremely high. Reed Kimber, a former Army helicopter pilot who is actually a DEI consultant, told NBC News he was taken aback by Trump's comments. To say those things that had no bearing on any facts and a lack of credible information is just jarring. Kimbrough, who happens to be of colour, said, "While families are grieving, to turn this into an attack on DEI is disturbing. The lack of empathy, the lack of decorum, using profanity at a press conference, and to politicise a tragedy is really unconscionable." And he's absolutely right. It's monstrous. Now, one thing that's interesting is that currently the FAA has no director. Now, in all fairness, this didn't actually have any bearing on the crash. It's not one of those things where basically like, oh God, there's no director. Everyone forgot how to do their job. At the time of writing this, it was unknown. I'm still not sure if it's actually clear what happened. But do you know why there's no FAA director?
Trump or Elon sacked him.
Bingo! There we go.
It's got to be.
Yeah, Elon essentially fired him. Michael Whitaker stepped down as FAA administrator on January the 20th, the day of Donald Trump's inauguration, after clashing with Elon Musk, whose company SpaceX is regulated by the agency. Musk publicly called on Whitaker to resign after the FAA fined SpaceX for failing to get approval for launch changes. So basically what happened is this guy had tried to hold Elon Musk to account for trying to bend the rules in regards to his own business, SpaceX, which is completely unconstitutional. It's essentially fascism. It's just a massive conflict of interest, and entirely the sort of thing that people should be completely up in arms about. And then he forced this guy out by basically calling for him to resign, knowing the power that he wields and the awkwardness that he could do, that he could cause. This guy just went, balls, I'm getting out of this. Fuck this guy.
Amazing.
And it's just, but this is the problem that essentially there's no one really to respond to this incident now. I mean, there are people, but his job wasn't there for no reason, was it? So it's very, very stupid.
And the only people who think that idiots can do this job are probably just idiots.
Yeah.
Like Elon.
Yeah. Speaking of idiots and idiots doing jobs and idiots being friends with idiots, Kash Patel, who's currently undergoing questioning to become the director of the FBI, had to deny during the hearing being friends with and knowing white supremacist and Holocaust denier Stu Peters. Somebody pointed out that Kash Patel has been on the Stu Peters show 8 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, what was interesting is that he basically,
Someone just tweets at us and we're like, "Hey, friend of the show." If you're on our show 8 times, you're friend of the show.
Oh, fuck yeah, absolutely. This is the thing. And you know who thought that? Stu Peters, who tweeted out in response, clearly Kash Patel is lying. He absolutely knows who I am, which probably didn't, wasn't exactly the endorsement that Kash Patel was looking for at that particular time.
Wait, did Cash say, "I don't know who he is"?
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, did I interrupt what you were trying to say then?
Oh, sorry, it's me probably not making it clear. He was asked if he knew who Stu Peters was during the hearing by Senator Peter Welsh. And he basically said, so do you know who Stu Peters is? No idea who Stu Peters is. And he said, Stu Peters is this guy who said all these things, blah, blah, blah. He's a white supremacist, etc. He was into QAnon, I believe, all that, blah, blah, blah. And Kash Patel was like, no, it doesn't ring a bell. Like, and he went, you do know you've been on his show 8 times. And
that's perjury, isn't it?
Probably. But we live in stupid times. Like, and he then tried to say that, well, I've been on lots of shows, but then Stu Peters quote tweeted this video out with a response saying, clearly Kash Patel is lying. He absolutely knows who I am. But Kash Patel's mental. Kash Patel used to be well into QAnon and stuff. It's difficult to know where the insanity stops and where the grifting starts with all of these people. But Kash Patel is one of these where you like, he has the sort of like crazed 1,000-yard glassy-eyed stare of the sort of person that you'd possibly find in the early morning mist with a hammer killing livestock. He just gives that impression to me. And so some of the things...
You definitely wouldn't let them feed your cat if you went on holiday.
No, you wouldn't. There you go. Like, he's eating the cats and dogs. So he had this exchange with Senator Welsh, and basically he was asked if Joe Biden won the 2020 election. And Kash Patel refused to say that he did. He said, well, he was certified and he served as president, but the person kept saying, like, it's not what I'm asking. Do you think that he won in a fair election? And he refused to say yes. This is the man that's trying to become the head of the FBI. Also, he refused to explicitly say that he would not investigate specific former officials who've been critical of Trump. Trump has got what is called an enemies list. And,
I bet that's long.
Well, it includes people like former FBI Director James Comey and former Attorney General William Barr.
I've just got an image, of all them boxes of documents that are
they're all just like names of people that he has to smite. So he's asked if he would pursue this enemies list, and he didn't say no. He said that he has no intention of going backwards in his work for the FBI. He also brought up the fact that Patel, in his book, so the enemies list was in Patel's book.
What?
The enemies list was in Patel's book. It was in a list of people. Sorry, I didn't make that clear. That had wronged Trump, and that he felt that should he be in any position to do so, he would treat these as enemies of the state.
So Trump's list is actually Patel's list.
Yeah.
Wow. No, I didn't know that.
But in the book also, and you must remember that this is the man that is trying to become the head of the FBI. So next to so he has this list of enemies who he feels has wronged Trump. But he also in the book suggests that he wants to shut down the FBI's headquarters and reopen it as a museum of the deep state. Now, he calls this, that's a gross mischaracterization, to describe the grouping in this book as an enemies list. And he says that if the best attacks on me are going to be false accusations and gross mischaracterizations, the only thing this body is doing is defeating the credibility of the men and women in the FBI. But Klobuchar responded by saying that she was quoting his words directly from his book.
This is what I was just thinking. This is exactly what I was just thinking.
This is the thing that who was it earlier that basically was RFK as well? The same thing.
Yeah.
You've written it down. You said this. No, I didn't say that. But that's the thing. The greatest trick of the party was get people to ignore the evidence of their eyes and ears.
And this harkens back to the thing you've said like multiple times about at one point someone, possibly Trump, just said, "Well,
fuck it."
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck it.
What if I don't say sorry?
Yeah.
What if I don't apologize for it? What if I don't admit it's a lie?
What if I'm completely shameless and just bullshit my way through everything? And it's like, it's incredible. He got that from Roy Cohn. He absolutely got that from Roy Cohn, who is a despicable and fascinating character.
At the Fox News.
No, Roy Cohn was a lawyer who initially was working with McCarthy during the sort of communism purgy type things, and later, sadly,
who am I thinking of? Roger, someone.
Roger Ailes, you're thinking of.
Roger Ailes, sorry.
Yeah, no, Roy Cohn was potentially mafiaed up, possibly a paedophile.
Yeah, I think we should do something
on Roy Cohn
about Roger Ailes.
Yeah,
about his legacy, the stuff that he birthed.
Yeah,
it is basically our modern day fake news disinformation. Sphere.
Absolutely. It's entirely relevant to almost everything that we cover. Like, speaking of like absolute denials and stuff like that, Kash Patel was also asked if he'd ever promoted QAnon, and
and he's going to say no, right?
He said absolutely not, never. And they didn't point out all the numerous times that he'd been on various sort of talk shows and podcasts promoting QAnon, but they did point out that there were 10 copies. He did a children's book called King Donald, which is about a king. Can you guess who he's based on? Yeah. Anyway, but he had a competition, I believe it was, where he was giving these signed books away, and he signed them with his signature and also WWG 1WGA.
Oh.
Which is the QAnon motto.
Just a random string of letters and numbers.
Exactly. It's the QAnon motto, where we go one, we go all. Which is a fucking stupid motto that doesn't make... It doesn't work. Like, where we go one, we go all. What? Like, And it's like that immediately.
It's like some weird, very bad translation of the Three Musketeers.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But what's ironic to me?
It's like the Japanese translation of it or something.
Yes, yeah. Your bases are all now belong to us. But I tell you what it also evokes to me, and maybe this is just me, that a group of people who, let's be honest, are very, very transphobic, have a motto that to me invokes the image of loads of people following you into a toilet cubicle.
No, we're cutting that. Just in case we offend any George Michael fans.
We're not cutting that, that's fine. It's not transphobic, it's QAnon-phobic. Anyway, he also denied promoting the idea that the FBI were behind the false flag of January the 6th, which he absolutely has done. And he also tried to distance himself from the J6 Choir, which is a recording of imprisoned rioters that he and Steve Bannon produced.
Oh my God. I did not know that existed, and now I need to find it and I need to sample it.
It was a song. Can you guess what the song was called? I'll give you a clue, because that's too much, right?
Because I'm just imagining that it's going to be like "God Bless America" or something.
It's a Metallica album.
Oh, Master of Puppets then?
No, and Justice for All.
But come on. Which begs
the question.
Good way to just blame the Jews, Master of Puppets.
That's true. What I'm suspecting is it's called "And Justice for All" because they couldn't find a bass section.
Ba-dum-bum.
Nice. Anyway, so
we both did the drum roll.
And we did it better than Lars. Anyway, so
bless him, he's old.
He's ace. Anyway, so this is a choir of people who've incarcerated January the 6th Capitol attack rioters. And it was a recording that Patel had co-produced, promoted, and sold. And he described the prisoners as political prisoners. And the senator basically said, what we're so concerned about this choir singing a song? Why are we so concerned about this choir singing a song? The question is, who are you going to care about? Who are you going to help? Are you going to help the victims of January 6th, the police and their families, or are you going to help the people arrested for assaulting the Capitol police officers? I think the J6 choir looks like a tribute to them, characterizing them as political prisoners and unlucky and just patriotic people who may have gotten out of hand. Do you see the difference? But unfortunately, Kash Patel did not see the difference.
Sorry, I've got to interrupt you because I had to just Google this Justice for All song.
Oh, yeah.
Wikipedia. Justice for All is a charity record by 45th and 47th United States President Donald Trump and the J6 prison choir. A choir of about 20 men imprisoned for their involvement in the January 6th United States Capitol attack. The profits from the song are dedicated to the legal aid of people incarcerated for the attack.
Oh,
but they've all been pardoned, so
where's that
legal aid money gone?
That's
a question.
That is a question. You know who'd be an expert, who we really need to get onto that? The head of the FBI.
We don't know who that is yet.
No, but maybe a conflict of interest. So another thing that happened is that obviously MAGA decided to be disgusting. The plane had crashed into the helicopter. There was a bit of speculation. There was a vacuum in the press. And obviously MAGA types decided to help the situation by smearing an innocent woman as being responsible for the crash. And they specifically decided to do this because this lady was trans, and they presumed because she was trans, she must have a vendetta against Donald Trump. So the idea was that this woman had purposely crashed into this plane in order to make Trump look bad or something like that. And this was a genuine thing that was spread by all sorts of people, but one of them, the main people, was Matt Wallace, who's a dreadful right-wing commentator.
Mr. Rumor Has It.
Is that what he does? He's just
him and his wife. They both go, "Rumor has it."
Oh, is it right? Because he's phrased this in a particular way. He's put, a transgender Black Hawk helicopter pilot for the military wrote a long letter about gender dysphoria and depression one day before the fatal crash. What happened may have been another trans terror attack. And there's several things that's wrong with that. Oh, and he then decides to show a picture of the lady. One of her in civilian clothes and one of her in her military uniform. So showing her picture, basically, and saying that he's put what happened may have been, but the inference is really clear. He's saying that this is the person responsible for the plane crash, and he's implying very heavily that it wasn't an accident; it was done on purpose. But there was one flaw in this particular theory. And it was quite a major one, and it immediately...
Can I guess?
You can guess, yes.
She wasn't even flying a helicopter?
Well, she was still alive.
Fucking it. It just was too good to be true.
Well, this is the thing. The New York Times had to come out with a headline saying, a Virginia pilot responds after she is falsely targeted over Black Hawk crash. Joe Ellis, a National Guard pilot who is transgender, was falsely identified as the captain of the crashed military helicopter in thousands of social media posts. So, Yeah, I mean that's not dissimilar from what happened with the Parkland shooter. Stockport, with everything. But what I was more thinking about was that they've posted this woman's picture and they've accused her of murdering people in order to have a go at Donald Trump. I mean, even though she's still alive, so it couldn't possibly have happened. That's still putting her in danger because I think logic has all gone out of the window here. To be quite honest.
What did they even do? How did they approach this?
Well, it's because Trump blamed DEI. I mean, if this was in this country, like I think she'd have a very good case for suing Donald Trump as well as Matt Wallace. She may even well have it in America because isn't currently who is it? Is it Owen Schroyer and Stephen Crowder and they're all being sued by Mark Bankston, the guy who was the Sandy Hook lawyer.
Right. Yeah.
They're going through depositions at the minute for falsely identifying a man as being a mass shooter. And also Alex I'm sure he did get sued for the Parkland thing, but I think that got all washed away because he already owes like $1.5 billion. So, but yeah, so, but it's because basically so the logic has gone, DEI, that's who we're blaming. And they've just scoured records for anybody that would fit the thing. They'll have looked for women, then they'll have looked for black women, right? Then they'll have looked and gone, oh my God, we've got a trans person here. That's ideal for our purposes. And this concept that there was another trans terror attack, this comes from the idea that the right wing are trying to spread the idea that a lot of school shootings are carried out by trans people, which just isn't true on any level. Like, there's no correlation. There's no huge statistical anomaly where the majority of people are are trans that carry out these attacks. It used to be that they claimed SSRIs. In fact, they're still doing that. In fact, RFK claimed that recently.
That was a big one in the conspiracy movement.
Absolutely, all the time.
Because it was like that's how they were mind controlled.
Yeah.
Through
medication. But that's what's despicable, basically. What it's doing is it's trying to tie in the sort of notion of how the logic works is a trans person did it. Well, those poor souls are mentally ill, aren't they? And which is horrific. But that is what the sort of that is trying to imply. It's like a two-pronged attack. One, suggesting that basically trans people are dangerous, and two, suggesting that it's actually a mental illness that could lead to other things. And it's all in the service of protecting the gun lobby, which again is just despicable. But
I wish conspiracists would just notice how this happens every single time and never seems to be the truth.
Yeah.
Like, it even happened with the attempted assassination with Trump.
Yeah.
The guy that shot him, they were posting pictures of allegedly him being trans, and it wasn't even the same person.
And a Democrat and stuff like that.
Why do you keep doing this and then being wrong?
I'll tell you what.
Can you not see? Seriously.
Well, I think they can see it. I mean, if I was being highly, highly cynical, I'd suggest that basically, people aren't stupid. People that tend to do gun crime tend to be people that have got access to guns. People tend to have access to guns, not in all cases, but tend to err more towards conservative values and certainly, gun ownership rhetoric and stuff like that. Not all the time, but the common denominator in school shootings is guns. And so they'll do anything to try and avoid that. And what's stupid is that you can actually acknowledge that and still nobody wants to take your guns. That's what's ridiculous. Nobody wants to take your guns. Maybe the people are reasoning that machine guns and assault weapons shouldn't be, there's no real reason to have them. But I have never understood it, because if you're a responsible gun owner, surely you don't want to be smeared by idiots. If you're driving on the roads and stuff like that, you don't want to be associated with people that joyride.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
If you go and watch the football, you don't necessarily want to be associated with hooligans or casuals or people like that, because you think that it brings the game into disrepute. Similar thing with guns. Surely school shooters is the worst PR for guns and gun ownership. But rather than go, oh no, this is a tragedy, it's always the worst one is the stupid shit that people like Alex Jones do, which is like, if only the teachers were armed. If only this turned into a running gun battle in a school as opposed to a shooting.
The only way to stop bad guys with guns is to have good guys with guns.
Yeah. Which is just stupid. I mean, there are arguments, there are cases where that's happened, where people have been shot by, stuff, and it stopped massacres and stuff like that. But the flip side of that argument is, every time you've been in a pub or any place where there's a lot of people and an altercation has kicked off, do you think that would have gone better or worse if everybody had a gun? And that was the world according to some.